Okay, it looks like we're live. So welcome to another town hall. Let's see, I'm going to share my screen for some notes. Okay. John's in the car, so I don't know if there's any updates on the fiscal sponsorship situation. You care to?
No updates.
Okay. The other one was for us to draft a Lumio proposal about the Wildman engagement, which is done. I actually just put that up this morning. You should have all been invited. So there is a summary up here with a link to both the summary document as well as the full proposal document so that people can read through all the details for themselves. This is open up now for a 1-week discussion period. So that'll go through next Friday. And at that point, we'll switch it into a voting process, which will run for 10 days. So that'll culminate on the 26th of June, where we'll have a final decision on this. So it's off and running. I don't think we've had any comments so far, although it's only been up for a matter of minutes. So I'm glad to see that out there and look forward to getting people's input. I think it could be a very positive thing for the community. Let's see, metrics, not tracking most of the metrics right now, just the fund balance, which is sitting just under 37 and went up a little bit. I think we have some people that do kind of a recurring monthly donation. So we're just under 37K right now. So we'll take a look at some of these posts from this week. Let's see, Daniel bought an unlimited arm. And it's addressed to you, John. I recently printed and assembled an unlimited arm for 7-year-old and purchased the assembly kit for the unlimited arm. I noticed the Velcro straps were a bit too big for the slots in the cuff and the forearm, which made fitting the arm for the recipient a bit difficult. We made it work, but I followed up with a narrower strap I found on Amazon. I had the same issue with the silicone fingertip cover, so I went back to Amazon and found some covers that fit tighter and a bit thinner. I have the links I can share for you. I'd like to recommend that the assembly kits are sold by size. Okay, so this should have been addressed to me, not John. I don't think selling the assembly kits by size is going to be an option, folks. I'm sorry. We put those together by hand and we include several different sizes of all the materials in there. But if you're doing something that's outside of those size ranges, it's just, we only have so much manpower. I just can't do more kits for different sizes. These are not factory produced. We literally have a person putting each and every material into those kits one by one, and it's very time consuming. So unfortunately, it's doing the best we can. The Velcro strips, just cut them with scissors. You can just cut them down so they're narrower. That's what we do when we need to adjust the size. If the gel fingertips are a little bit too big, you can just put them on with some rubber cement or super glue. You just have to get a little bit creative, but the kits are designed to cover a pretty wide range of scales. So if you're outside of that, it's just, you might need to just get your materials separately. I'm seeing some of those same comments here. Terry sort of suggested a pair of scissors. So I'm going to leave this as is. I appreciate the suggestion. I'm just unfortunately not in a position to do different sizes of kits right now. Irene, student project. So Irene is a student from Spain doing a project about prostheses, and she's asking questions here. It looks like she's gotten some responses. This one's in Spanish, so I'm not quite sure if the questions are being answered. So there's some discussion going on here. We'd have to get out our little translation tools because my Spanish is rusty, but I think this is kind of where it needs to be. It's addressed to the community, and hopefully others will come back and offer further responses to these questions here. Does anybody else here have anything to add based on the questions being asked here?
Nope.
Okay. I think we'll just leave it as is, and hopefully our other volunteers will jump in and offer some perspectives on that. Alexandra, Phoenix Hand. Very new to 3D printing, downloaded the Phoenix V3. She's got students that have decided to make that. Like them to be able to work in small groups to print just one part of the hand. Is there a way of selecting just one component to print? Well, yeah, they're all separate STL files. So you just pick whatever files you want to print and just print those files. I'm guessing that others have explained this. Yeah, she's the only problem is she's got one of those mini printers that only has a 14 by 14 centimeter build area. That always causes some difficulty, but I do see some offers down here for, like Vakil is saying, that he does have, well, no, actually he's saying her bed size does not appear to be big enough, but he's offering that she can email directly and maybe he can help her split those STL files. Yeah, he's got files that are a bit larger than her printer bed, but it sounds like Vakil might be able to help kind of cut the parts down into smaller pieces that she can print. But yeah, whenever anyone asks about, hey, what 3D printer do I use for e-NABLE, I always tell them you can use just about anything you want as long as it preferably has a heated bed, but do steer clear of those mini style printers. It's very difficult to print our devices on a mini printer because you do have to start dividing parts up and then reconnecting them, and that affects strength and complicates the process. So, I mean, if that's your only option, hopefully she'll be able to get it to work, but those mini style printers are not ideal for these kinds of devices. Let's see, Giovanni. Let's see, investigating about the possibility of making a functional finger prosthesis to my friend. He's missing the index, ring, and middle fingers along with the phalanges. He's got no studies in 3D printing nor knowledge about engineering or anything like that. But he's trying to learn to achieve this. And he'd like to know if there's anyone here who can help. So he got a response from Chris Carlos. A couple of years ago, I made hands for twins with electrodactyly. Trying to scan this here. Started with the Phoenix hand, used Tinkercad to remove the bits of the palm that I didn't need. Attached an image of an STL of one of the palms. Let's see if this works. Let's see an image. This is a download to a tool. Oh, there's the image. Okay. Maybe I'm misunderstanding something. I thought he said that his friend is missing the index ring and middle finger. So we would almost need the inverse of this, right? This looks like it's for somebody that has the index ring and middle fingers, but nothing else. Maybe I'm confused. I don't know. I'm not seeing any other comments. I mean, when I read this, to me, it sounds like just multiple Nick fingers or something like that. You put a finger on each one and strap them all to the same wrist cuff. And I would think something like that might be the way to approach this if he's missing 3 fingers. Anybody else have thoughts about how you might approach that?
No, I think you're right.
Okay. Well, as always, it looks like we have Sarah here. Sarah, if time permits, maybe you could share a link to this part of our video so you can hear that discussion and maybe look into the Nick finger as just an independent finger for each one of the missing fingers and see if that would work.
Yes, I can definitely do that.
Okay. Next we have Darren, Singapore. Oh, not saying. Oh,
This was an introduction. I just wanted to call attention to it in case we have any Singapore connections that I don't know about.
I don't know. We could always take a look here on the chapters map.
We do have a Singapore connection. Chang Lu is in Singapore. She was a intern in Rochester a few summers ago, and she's a practicing prosthetist now.
And our chapters map is down again. Guys, we got a problem here. I have put in way too many hours lately trying to fix this chapter map. And every time something changes in the form and that overwrites the column headings in the spreadsheet and the whole thing breaks and I have to go back and restore to a previous version. I've gone back and forth with Masvi on this a half a dozen times. And every time I'm kind of getting oh, hey, go try this kind of thing. And I don't have time to deal with this anymore. So somebody needs to fix the chapter map and I'm not the guy. we need to figure out how to code it differently, because literally every time someone submits the form for a new chapter, it breaks the chapter map.
I ought to be able to work on that.
Oh, okay.
I've been doing map stuff lately. I'll take a first look at it, and I'll reach out to Masby.
Okay, yeah, it's very, very finicky, because each of the actual titles for the form fields in the intake form correspond to the column headers in the spreadsheet. So if the form changes, the spreadsheet changes, then the code breaks. So you can't change either the headers in the columns of the spreadsheet, and you can't change anything in the form. And it seems like one or the other keeps getting changed, and I can't tell where those changes are coming from.
You would think that if it sounds as if the form got changed, and whenever anyone uses the form,
But I went back, yes, just as recently as yesterday, I went back in and I restored an earlier version of the spreadsheet. I verified all the column headings were working, the map was working. I then went into the form and I edited each of the individual form fields to match exactly what the column headings are. And then I did a full submission as a test and verified that after my submission, the map was still working. So it was in a working state as of yesterday. So either somebody changed the form or somebody changed the spreadsheet since yesterday. And I have no idea how that's happening.
We should try unsharing the form so that
it's not mine.
We can look at the version on the form. I'll take a look at it, John.
Yeah, it's not mine. It's yours, John. You own the form.
I'll take.
Okay.
Okay. I'll look
Anyway,
at
as of now, the chapter map is down again. Excuse me.
But Chang Lu is a Singaporean e-NABLE prosthetist.
Okay. How do you spell their name? Or
Chang
okay.
and Liu.
Okay. I'll look for them.
Okay.
Okay.
It's a she.
Giovanna, master's degree student in design and engineering at Politecnico di Milano, and thesis project developing a modular 3D printed upper limb prosthesis to be produced in laboratories located in developing countries, specifically for off-the-grid communities. Interesting project. If any of you are aware of organizations working in the field of prosthetic services and production in developing countries, I would greatly appreciate it if you could provide me their names. I don't know, Adam, any contacts or connections or thoughts that you might want to share?
I missed the first half. This is someone interested in working in the developing world.
Yeah, she's a master's degree student working on her design thesis project. She wants to make modular 3D printed upper limb prostheses to be produced in laboratories located in developing countries for off-the-grid communities.
That sounds familiar. Yeah, that's very much in line with my thinking for where e-NABLE could head, or at least something that I've been toying with and reaching out to folks to. I mean, there are a couple of areas, some specific regions that there's not really a template in place. I'll tell you, this is one of the things where I was hoping we could steer community interest toward, and in the conversations that I've had with clinical folks trying to rope them into the e-NABLE community, seems like more of the interest that would draw people in who don't have like a specific printing background or engineering background. So I think that this is important. I don't know that I have a specific resource for her other than myself, but I'd love to collaborate with her on building something like this.
Great. I just put note in chat for you with the link to that post. So when you have time, Adam, if you just want to comment on there, and you can.
And if this is Milano, Italy, then we've got Rune Thorson, who's based in Milano as well. He's sort of Jeremy, if you remember, John, I believe you put me in touch with Rune. But he is a PhD engineer working with the EU in designing not only assistive technology, but methods of deploying it cheaply. So that might be a way. I wonder if there's a way to get them connected as well, because I know that's an interest of his. Okay. So yes, I will. I'll talk to Giovanna.
Sounds good. And I think this is our last one from Agnello.
The translation is under the
Oh, that
post.
is the translation. Thank you. So this is Anielo Olivos Guerrero, 22 years old, from Peru, traveled to Spain to finish his studies, looking for a better quality of life. In the third month at work, an accident happened, changed his life radically since another worker cut 2 fingers of my right hand, but I managed to save one. Looking for some help to continue with my life, to find a way to feel normal since I do not feel the same after the accident. I'd greatly appreciate someone who can help me design something adapted. I did some research in a 3D stereolithography print, or some other would help me. Yeah, I'm not sure SLA is the way to go, but that's okay. I'm in La Coruña, Spain. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. So once again, it sounds like we're talking about multiple finger devices here to me. I would think looking at the Nick finger would be a good place to start. I think that's the most mature finger design that we have. And it would just be a separate finger device for each one of his missing fingers, with a cord that goes back to a little cuff around his wrist for the actual bending function. And I would think a couple of those would serve him well. So it's really just a matter of connecting him with a volunteer that could help to fabricate those, and, you know, get them sized appropriately and get them off to him to try them. These days, I honestly don't know what to tell people as far as the best way to go to get that going. I mean, normally we tell people go to Enable Web Central and create a case. I just don't know how functional that is. I don't know how many of our volunteers are using it. I kind of feel like it might be more effective to just post in the hub, which he's already done. And I wonder if it might not make sense to put your translation, Sarah, in the hub as well as a comment, just for those that
Okay.
might not be Spanish speaking. And you might include mention of either a link to this part of the video, or just include mention that we're thinking that the Nick finger might be worth considering here. And would anyone like to make a couple for him?
I think for me, if it were me, I wouldn't want to hear a conversation about it. I would just directly want the proposed idea. So I'll post a translation, and the Nick finger. If there's an easy, like if there's a photo of it or something that I could post to show him,
It's in the device
that
catalog.
would be good.
Mhm.
Okay.
The other thing is, we should check for Spanish volunteers when the map is working. And in this context, I can mention that I'm told there's a very active and healthy Portuguese e-NABLE chapter, which I hope to learn more about soon, because I'm going to be going to Lisbon in November to give a talk about e-NABLE, it turns out. So, Sarah, you can follow up with me on that, and we'll see what we can find out.
Portuguese as in Portugal?
In Lisbon, yes.
Okay. My brother is just there. He's been telling me how very different the Portuguese in Portugal is compared to Brazilian Portuguese. Very different accent. Okay, so we'll respond there with the translation and see if we can get him some help. I put an image in the chat for you, Sarah, of the Nick finger.
Thank you.
Okay, so as far as upcoming meetings, we got the chapter leader meeting on Monday. Anything special to report there, John?
No, not really.
Okay. Then we got our other meetings. Let's take a look at the schedule for the month. So we are at the 9th here. Let's see. Oh, so it's not this Monday. I guess it's Monday the 19th. I was mistaken. I thought I saw that on the hub. Let me just make sure we don't have something misleading here. Oh, no, it does say the 19th. I just assumed it was next Monday because it was in the next upcoming events list. Okay. So the education new member meetup is going to be next Friday, the 16th. And it looks like we have Chad Lehman as a guest. And I saw that you put a nice bio together in the newsletter about him. Adam, anything you would like to add here?
Yeah, Chad is the Director of Innovation with Makers Making Change. I reached out to him a couple of months ago now to try to get an initial point of contact between e-NABLE and the Neil Squire organization, which is sort of the parent, I believe it's a government run nonprofit. Lines are a little blurrier in Canada with some of those things than in the US, as I understand it. But in short, Neil Squire is an organization that funds a lot of different elements of social improvement, and Makers Making Change is one of those sort of divisions. MMC has chapters based in the United States for anyone who's not familiar, and Chad is sort of responsible for identifying opportunities for new programs and coordinating their members to deliver on their mission. So in a lot of ways, he is analogous to my position, but obviously his role is more mature and has been established for quite some time. So I reached out to him to try to get a little bit of sense for how we could model some of our internal infrastructure, if there were opportunities or if there were elements that seemed like they'd be good for a copy paste. But I also thought that because e-NABLE has such a strong presence globally, whereas Makers Making Change is a little bit more restricted to North America, I thought that we could offer a little bit to them as well, and we could get some reciprocal resource sharing going on. So yeah, he'll be speaking next Friday about MMC, talking about how they started and what their core competencies are. In short, they're really focused on assistive tech. 3D printing is an element of that. It's not quite like e-NABLE where it's the core. But I think that there is enough overlap to make a relationship there worthwhile, but not so much that we need to worry about, fighting for resources or attention. So yeah, it seems like a good strategic partnership, and one that I'm hopeful will bear some fruit in the months and years ahead.
Very good. And then, as I mentioned, on the 19th, we got the chapter leaders meeting. That's a Monday. And then the following Friday would be the Bionic Design Group meeting on the 30th. Actually, I don't know if that's the following one or the further out, but on the 30th anyway is the Bionic Design Group. And of course, every week, these town halls. So that's what we've got going on for June. Okay, so discussion topics. I mentioned this earlier. We have successfully gotten the Wildemont proposal up into Lumio, and it is running as a discussion. There's a link to it here. I invited everybody in Lumio, so I think it went out to 190 were invited, and so far one of them has seen it. Yeah, we don't have the greatest level
I think that's me
with Lumio, but hopefully that will improve. Anyway, we will let it run for a week for discussion, get any comments. That'll give us an opportunity to make any changes if we feel that's appropriate in the proposal. And then as of a week from now, around the next town hall meeting, we will put it live to voting, and that'll run for 10 days, which will culminate on the 26th if we stick to that schedule. So that's where that's at. I got an update on Azure hosting. I shared some of this last time, but I have kind of a final update. I was able to finally connect to somebody. It went on forever, back and forth emails, just nonstop mess. They did fix the grant application, so the $3,500 a year grant is being applied to our account now, which it has not been for years through no fault of ours. It was a configuration error on their end. There was not even an option to change anything from what I have. It just wasn't set up the way it should have been. And as a consequence, it was just getting billed to my credit card the whole time. We did go in and reduced our resource utilization significantly, especially on e-NABLE Web Central. So it might be running a little bit more slowly, but at least that's cutting the cost down to the point where all of our hosting should be covered by that $3,500 a year grant now without going over that. Through working back and forth with the billing team, they did come back and offered a refund of this year's cost, the $2,664 that they had billed to my card for the current year. And then after much further deliberation, they came back and they said, sorry, we can't do anything for the previous years. Their reasoning was that, well, those credits already expired. Yeah, well, pardon my French, no shit, guys. They expired because of your misconfiguration. Not only was it their misconfiguration, I tried reaching out to them no less than a dozen times. I tried scheduling a session with their concierge service. I sent emails. Not once did I get a reply back from anybody. They just blew me off. But all of a sudden, they're just leaving me with the bill. So I am out a balance of $4,629 as a result of that I'm not going to be able to recuperate. And I'm just sharing this with you guys because I want you to know how this company handled the situation. I don't know how everyone else is, but the way I am, I want nothing to do with a company that acts this way. I don't want to ever deal with Microsoft again. And I really don't want to be responsible for this platform. I need to find somebody to take this over because right now I'm the only one that has administrative access to it. And it's still my credit card that it's tied to if there's any problems or if it goes over, and I got to get out of this situation. So I think we need to find out some other hosting situation. That means hosting the hub somewhere else. It means either hosting e-NABLE Web Central somewhere else or preferably shutting it down. But that would mean finding somebody to help me get that new matching platform up and running, which I have been unsuccessful after, I don't know, a year and a half now. I've been trying to find somebody. So I'm a little bit at the end of my rope here, but I need to get this off my plate. And so, Adam, I would ask kindly that if your proposal does get approved, I would appreciate it if you could make this part of what you're working on to try to get this resituated
Yeah.
on some different platform.
I mean, honestly, what we're talking about is an enterprise level assessment of all of these issues and trying to make a priority list. That sounds like high priority one. In terms of current functionality, though, I mean, I know that it was stripped down pretty significantly recently, and it seems to be not a significant lack or reduction in service on the site. We can talk about this offline, but I know there are other options out there that we could explore.
Now that we're within what I believe is within the capacity of the grant for everything that we're using, there's no problem if you guys decide you want to stick with Azure. It's already there. It's already working. I would just like to not be the primary admin, and I would like to not have my credit card tied to it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
that's something we can address. We can address the credit card. The moment we ask Evan to switch it over to the one for Rochester e-NABLE Limited, and I'm happy to do that.
Okay. Yeah, I'd appreciate that, John. And like I said, there shouldn't be anything hitting the card the way it's set up now. It's just they need to have a card on file. So yes, I'd appreciate it if we could make that switch.
Okay. So,
all right, I'll follow up with you on that.
Yeah, so something so that we know what account we want to transfer.
You're breaking up a little there, John. I can follow up with you on that.
Did I lose you?
You're coming in and out. Yeah. Okay. We'll connect on that separately, John. Let's see. It doesn't look like we have Tainara with us today. Adam, have you had any exchanges with her? Any updates on the work she's doing?
No updates. I apologize. I've been kind of out of reach for the past week or so. We had a passing in the family. So thank you. It's on my wife's side. So we've been a little caught up in some personal issues. But as I understand it, she's really interested in focusing on establishing clinical guidelines that anyone in our community would be able to understand and follow. So we are going to be connecting this summer to begin developing those. That's another area where I feel like, just bringing in more clinical folks is going to both spur that and also necessitate it. So I'd like to make sure that we have some framework in place before we get too many competing voices. That would be a good problem to have, but it would still be potentially problematic if we don't have any kind of guidelines to start from. So trying to get that done sooner than later.
Well, I've been in the same boat. I was out all last week, and so I'm still kind of in catch-up mode. And so that's why I don't really have the agenda in really good working order. Although I have to say I usually don't. Which leads me to another thought, Adam. If this goes forward as I hope it does, and you guys get into this engagement that we're talking about, do you have any interest, or do you see any value in kind of taking the lead on these weekly town halls? Because I don't feel like I do a particularly great job of organizing agendas or anything. I've just been the one keeping them going, but I'd be happy to hand this over.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly happy to help. I think that there are certain technical elements like walking through the posts that I'm just not qualified to speak to. And I think that maybe one of the things in the Wildemount proposal, or at least I intended to include, this might have been cut from the summary that was dropped into Lumio. But I think that we could break up the subject matter and cadence of some of these weekly discussions, because I know that we have, or at least in the past few months, frequently run into, well, we've run out of time for this topic, or we've run out of time for that topic.
Yeah.
And it might be good to kind of divide and conquer a bit and have like technical calls versus like community engagement calls. And again, I don't want to overwhelm, but I think that that kind of comes down, given how huge ostensibly our community is. I think that we could certainly talk about ways that we could organize these in a way that is a little bit more time efficient, and also make sure that all these individual requests are being addressed.
Agreed. Yep. I actually just had a thought that I was going to ask John, but it looks like we lost him. I was going to say, now that we have the Wildemount proposal up there in Lumio, somebody really needs to post something in the hub, basically explaining what we're up to and inviting people to please go over and take a look and share their comments, and really trying to get people to engage with that. I think John would be a good candidate for that. I don't know if since I don't know if he's coming back here. Sarah, is that something that you would have time to do, to write something up in the hub and just kind of asking people to go check out this Lumio thread and share their comments?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, there's John. We'll see if he wants to. Hold on. John, you back with us?
I am back.
I was just saying, I think that one other thing we need to do here is to write up a post in the hub with a very brief, summary of what we're up to with this Wildemount proposal, and link people over to the Lumio thread to try to get better engagement on that. Is that something you could do?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So Sarah, I'll just ask for you to kind of follow up on that and make sure John gets that done.
Okay.
All right. Well, guys, I'll tell you what, I'm kind of leaning towards keeping this a shorter meeting today. If anybody else here has anything you'd like to discuss, I'm happy to do that. We have time, but otherwise, I feel like we've covered the pressing issues. I'm most interested in letting that the Wildemount proposal go through its discussion and voting process and get to where we can actually get to work on some of this stuff. But for now, I feel like we've covered everything that's really of importance for today. So does anybody else have anything that you'd like to discuss?
Just two quick
Jeremy,
things related there. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Go ahead, John.
just going to say, I think we should reimburse you for the $4,000 that was billed to your credit card. We have the money for that. It's no fault of your own. It's been a bargain in any case. I suppose by our rules, we should make it a proposal.
Yeah,
But I'm
I
in favor of
appreciate
doing
that, John. I'll be honest, I have mixed feelings about that, just because I'm imagining that there are people in the community that would say, well, there were much less expensive hosting options available. We never should have been on that anyway. And, I was the one that got us onto Azure. That was because I thought it was covered by the grant, but I don't know. I still kind of feel like I mean, at the very least, I could have caught it sooner. I didn't realize until much, much too late that this was even happening. I didn't even realize I have so many things hitting this credit card through my business. You would think you'd notice, $500 a month hitting, but I didn't notice because it just got mixed up with all the other noise. But I do feel a little bit responsible for not having caught it sooner. So I'm a little bit on the fence as to whether or not to ask for reimbursement on that.
Well,
Jeremy, get off the fence. Let's just do it.
Yeah, that was one of the two things I was going to say, is that I think that you shouldn't have to bear the brunt of that. And I agree that regardless of whether it panned out the way you intended, I think that the amount of money you're talking about for the amount of time is still pretty inexpensive. So I would certainly be in favor of that. And if this is something where certain members of the community are balking, that's what the discussion on Lumio is for.
That's true. That's true. Well, I
So-
can't argue with at least giving it an opportunity for discussion, and then we'll see how people respond, and then I can decide whether or not to move forward with it. So, okay.
Jeremy,
Appreciate
if you
that,
want to
guys.
give me a brief paragraph describing this fiasco, I will put forward the proposal.
Okay. Sounds good, John. I will make a note of doing that, and hopefully within the next week I can get something to you.
Then
Thank you
the
both.
second thing I wanted to say is that it's actually Wildemont, not Wildemont.
I'm sorry about that.
It's my fault
Wildemont.
it's my fault for naming it something so easily mispronounced. But
Okay, I got to try to remember that. I'm sorry, Adam. I think I said that about a dozen times during this
no,
meeting.
you're good.
Messed up your branding. I've got that in people's brains now. Wildemont. Okay. Wildemont. Okay. I will try to remember that. I'm sorry, Adam.
Thank you. No, I'm just teasing. You're good.
All right. Anybody have anything else? Okay. Have a good week, everyone. See you next time.
Thank you.